Hey everyone, welcome back to Extreme Expat Stories of Thailand. Quick heads up, I've been under the weather lately, and because of a national holiday later this week, I won't be able to access my office. We'll pause new episodes for a few days and be back with regular releases on Monday next week. In the meantime, please keep sending your wild expat stories in the email in the description. I read every one. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of Extreme Expat Stories of Thailand. Hello. I never imagined I would one day be writing an email like this, sharing how I lost everything in Thailand. I'm telling my story as a confession and a warning, because I was arrogant and naive, and I paid a terrible price. My name is Mario. I'm an American in my early 30s, and I spent the last few years of my life moving between Bangkok and Pattaya, chasing a dream of love that turned into a nightmare. I arrived in Thailand full of excitement and stupid confidence. It was January of 2022. I just quit my high-paying finance job in New York to find adventure. Bangkok's neon glow and cheap thrills called to me like a siren song. At 32, I felt invincible. I had saved up about 85,000 US dollars, which felt like a fortune in Thailand. I had a pocket full of cash and I acted like I owned the place. I thought I could never lose. With my money, I could buy anything. The city felt alive. The smell of pad thai on street corners, the roar of motorbikes, the neon lights blazing above the bars. I checked into a hotel in Sukhumvit and immediately hit the streets. That first week, I tossed wads of baht around like it was monopoly money. I tipped every bartender generously and bought rounds of drinks for anyone who smiled at me. The local girls seemed to orbit me like moths around a flame. Every new friend, taxi drivers, street vendors, fellow expats, introduced me to even more women. The lifestyle felt intoxicating. But even as I reveled, whispers of caution started floating around. Some expat friends muttered, "If you're paying for everything, you might just be a walking ATM." And online forums, I had read one side saying I would be exploited and another saying, "It's part of Thai culture. A man who earns more helps out his partner." I laughed it off. I told myself I was just being a good boyfriend by providing. I kept saying I was in control. Jeffrey, a Brit living in Bangkok, pulled me aside one night and said, "Mario, you're living the dream, but one day it might all slip through your fingers." I laughed and slapped his back, convinced he was just jealous. I wasn't listening. One humid Friday night on Sukhumvit Road, about 3 weeks into my Thai adventure, I met Nitaya. I'd been bar hopping and ended up at a place called Electric Blue. Pulsing music, colored lights, beautiful women everywhere. There were dozens of beautiful women dancing and laughing in that bar. But when Nitaya walked in, I didn't look at anyone else. She was different. Nitaya was about 28, petite, with long black hair and big brown eyes that caught every bit of light. She had the sweetest smile and a laugh that filled the space around her. Something about her innocence and warmth drew me in immediately. I had no idea at the time that she was dancing to support her family. To me, she was just a beautiful stranger who seemed out of place. I watched her for maybe 10 minutes before making any move. She wasn't approaching customers like the others. I walked straight up to her. "Hi, I'm Mario," I said. "Can I buy you a drink?" She smiled shyly. "My name not Nitaya. You can call me Nit. You new here?" By the end of that night, I had bought Nitaya several drinks and dragged her to a quieter corner. I told her I was new in Bangkok, fresh from New York. She giggled and said she worked at a BTS station, selling snacks to commuters. Looking back, I suspect that was a cover story. We chatted about silly things, spicy Thai dishes, her favorite mango sticky rice, my attempts to learn Thai swear words. When I asked her if she could teach me to dance, she flashed her sweet smile and took my hand. Under neon lights, Nittaya's perfume, coconut, and jasmine surrounded me. I couldn't concentrate on anything but her. When we danced together, I felt an electric spark. We laughed until the bar closed at 2 a.m. Before we parted, I scribbled my number on a napkin and pressed it into her hand. Nitaya hugged me goodbye and pressed a soft kiss on my cheek. I stumbled away on a complete high. As soon as I got back to my hotel, I texted her, "Seeing your smile was the best part of my night." She replied within minutes with a laughing emoji and teased me in Thai, calling me Farang Loi, crazy foreigner. I grinned like an idiot. Over the next week, I saw Nitaya almost every night. She insisted we meet at a quiet cafe in Ari instead of the bar. We talked about our families over iced coffee. She told me about her 8-year-old daughter, Ploy, from a previous relationship, living with her grandmother in Isan. She sent nearly all her wages home for the girls' school and food. That hit me hard. Here was this woman carrying huge responsibilities. I admire that about her. I was falling into the classic expat love story trap. Nitaya teased me in Thai. Rai yai yak leo na ja, meaning, just take it easy, Mario. And I pretended to be offended. Don't tell me what to do, girl. We smiled at each other. I whispered, maybe we really will be a good team. And she smiled back warmly. In my arrogant mind, I believed it. 2 months later, I decided to take Nittaya on a holiday. 4 days in Pattaya. The beach town was everything I had dreamed of. Golden sand, lively markets, and more neon than Bangkok. We checked into a beachfront hotel for 2,500 baht a night. For those 4 days, it felt like we really were a couple without a care. By day, we relaxed on the warm sand. I splurged on cocktails and grilled seafood. We rented jet skis and rode banana boats. One evening at Pattaya Pier, watching the sunset, Nitaya leaned her head on my shoulder and sighed. "Mario, this is so beautiful. Thank you for bringing me here." In that moment, I felt happiness like never before. For a few seconds, I believed maybe this was truly love. At night, we wandered through Walking Street hand in hand. Music poured out of every bar. We danced and laughed in front of neon signs. I pulled her close and shouted over the music in broken Thai. "Pom mi fan leo. I have a girlfriend now." She giggled at my chest-pumping pride. In Pattaya's wild lights, I told myself I was the luckiest man alive. But there was one memory that still stings. I caught Nitaya eyeing an older foreign man across the street, a tall Russian guy wearing sunglasses at night. She looked at him for too long, and I saw something in her expression. Then she looked back at me, smiling. Something in me burned. But I downed my beer to calm myself. I told myself it was nothing. On the ride back to Bangkok, I whispered, "I love you." She looked at me and softly said, "Pom rak kun. I love you too." In that moment, I believed she meant it. I had no idea how much I didn't know yet. Back in Bangkok, I began doting on Nitaya even more. One night over dinner, I said, "If we're going to be serious, maybe you shouldn't go back to dancing every night." Her face went pale. She paused, then gently said, "Mario, I need that money to live." "No, Nitaya," I said firmly. "You don't have to do that anymore. I'll take care of you." She gasped softly. Here was this sweet girl, seemingly willing to give up her livelihood for me. I felt like a hero. Nitaya said if I really wanted her to stop, she could do it, but only if she had enough money each month. She said 20,000 baht would cover her expenses. 20,000 baht, about $600, sounded like pocket change. I pulled out my wallet and counted the money right there. Anything you need, I said. Just tell me. For the first time, Nitaya looked like someone's beloved girlfriend. She squeezed my hand and called me her hero. Almost overnight, I started spoiling Nitaya. I bought her expensive jewelry, gold necklaces, diamond earrings. She cried with happiness over a sapphire necklace that cost 45,000 baht. I bought a condo unit near Onnut BTS station and put it in her name. I set up a bank account for her, paid utilities, and transferred money monthly for her daughter's school fees. I got her a brand new red Honda motorcycle. Every weekend, riverside dinners, mini golf dates, another trip to Pattaya. I bragged to my expat buddies. I don't even ask her to work the bars anymore. She's all mine. Jeffrey just shook his head. Mario, you're going to regret this. I kept telling myself this was what love was. In Thailand, it's normal for a man to support his partner and her family. I convinced myself I was just being a good Thai boyfriend. My credit cards maxed out one by one. My Thai bank account drained at an alarming rate. Sometimes 50,000 or 60,000 baht disappearing in a week. But I didn't care. Every baht I spent felt like a promise of love. Eventually, cracks began to show in our perfect picture. I started finding little cues that Nitaya was still caught in her old life. Or maybe living a double life I couldn't see clearly. The signs were there, but I was too blind or too stubborn to acknowledge them. Once I found lipstick on the collar of her white blouse when I was helping her do laundry, a deep red shade that definitely wasn't her. I held it up and asked, "What's this?" She barely glanced at it before brushing off my concern, saying a friend named Fon had borrowed the blouse for a date. It seemed plausible. I let it go. Another time, I was out running errands near Chatuchak Market and called her around 3 p.m. Her roommate, Sirin, answered her phone. Apparently, Nitaya had left it at home, and casually mentioned that Nit wasn't there, that she'd gone out earlier in the day. When Nitaya finally showed up at my apartment that evening around 7 p.m., she smelled of a different perfume, something floral and expensive I'd never noticed before. Her makeup was fresh, like she'd just reapplied it. She had a hushed excuse ready about visiting a sick aunt in Nimburi that she'd forgotten to tell me about. Each time I confronted her gently, asking questions, she gave reasonable sounding excuses. "Oh, my cousin needed help moving apartments. That's why I stayed late." Or, "My friend was crying about her boyfriend. I had to console her." She looked uneasy when answering, her eyes darting away from mine. But I was so deeply in love, I chose to believe her every single time. I wanted to believe her. One Saturday afternoon, I couldn't hold myself back any longer. The doubts had been building up inside me like pressure in a boiling kettle. "Are you still going to bars when you told me you don't?" I asked quietly as we ate pat krapao for lunch at a small restaurant near her condo. My voice was shaking slightly. For a long moment, Nitaya looked down at her rice and said nothing. The silence stretched out painfully. Then she admitted something, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, she had gone once or twice with an old friend named Plum when she was desperate for extra money. "I'm sorry, Mario," she said, and real tears started rolling down her cheeks. "But I needed money that day. Chloe was sick, needed medicine. The 20,000, not enough sometimes. It won't happen again. I promise." I believed her. God help me. I believed her completely. I convinced myself that it was truly over now, that I had finally saved her from that world for good. I even apologized to her, saying I was sorry for doubting her, for not giving her enough money to cover emergencies. How much do you need? I asked. I'll give you more. Just don't go back there. We hugged across the plastic table, and I increased her monthly allowance to 30,000 baht. We moved on as if nothing had really changed, as if we'd fixed the problem. In the weeks that followed, Nitaya began to build our home life in ways that made everything feel legitimate. She cooked Thai dinners for me on weekends, amazing green curry, tom yum soup so spicy it made my eyes water, sometimes papaya salad with sticky rice. Sometimes she played Thai folk music from her phone and sang softly while folding laundry in the condo. I remember one Sunday morning, her laughing hysterically at me trying to eat sticky rice with chopsticks instead of my hands. No, no, Mario, like this, she demonstrated, rolling the rice into a ball with her fingers. It felt comfortable, normal, domestic, like we were a real couple building a real life together. In between these domestic moments, I kept bragging to anyone who would listen that Nitaya had given up her old life for me. My friends just smiled politely and didn't say much, sometimes exchanging glances I couldn't quite read. I told myself that meant they approved of my sacrifices, that they respected what I was doing. But while I was half blind with love and pride, I was going broke at an alarming speed. Under the table, sometimes literally under restaurant tables, I kept sliding out stacks of cash for Nitaya. For your mother, for Ploy's school trip, for the condo maintenance fee, for your motorcycle repairs. Meanwhile, I was spending recklessly on other things too. I made a late night drunken investment in a beachfront bar business in Pattaya with some Australian guy I barely knew, throwing in 400,000 baht that disappeared in a hole in the sand. I threw money into online gambling sessions on football matches, convinced I could pick winners, losing 50,000 baht in a single afternoon. I maxed out another credit card to fund a birthday trip for Nittaya on Koh Samui. Every time I checked my bank balance and saw the shrinking numbers, I felt a moment of panic, but then I'd shrug it off. We're in love, I told myself. Money doesn't matter. What could go wrong when you have love? One late night in Bangkok, everything collapsed in a way I never saw coming. My phone rang at 4 a.m., dragging me out of sleep. It was Nitaya. Her voice was soft and sad, devoid of the usual warmth. Mario, can you meet me? I need to talk to you. It's important. My heart immediately sank. That instinctive feeling that something terrible was about to happen. What's wrong? I asked, sitting up in bed, my heart pounding. Where are you? Please, just meet me by the Chao Phraya River, near Safan Taksin BTS. At sunrise, can you come? I threw on clothes and rushed out, my mind racing through every possible scenario. Was she hurt? Was someone threatening her? Was she pregnant? I grabbed a taxi and gave the driver an extra 100 baht to speed. When I found her sitting on a bench under a bridge by the river, as dawn was just starting to break, she looked small and sad, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She held a large envelope with my name written on it in her careful handwriting. My hands shook as I took it from her. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Inside was a thick stack of bills, every baht I had left in my possession, about 650,000, and a short note written in her handwriting in both Thai and English. The note said she had repaid all the money I had given her over the past month, or as much as she could gather. I love you, Mario, it read in slightly broken English, but I cannot stay if we cannot have future. You have no job now, no money coming. I have daughter to take care of. I am sorry. Please don't hate me. You are a good man, but this is not working. I stared at those words in complete disbelief. reading them over and over. All those gifts, all those dinners, all those condo payments and cash transfers and motorcycle payments. She had quietly, methodically returned them, line by line, saving up the money somehow to give it all back to me at once. She calmly handed me my own money back, money I'd already spent emotionally, and turned to walk away. At that moment, I felt like someone had punched me in the gut with a steel fist, knocking all the air out of my lungs. I realized the awful truth that I'd been running from for months. Nitaya had needed money to be in love with me, and without it, without the promise of more, she was walking away. It was that simple and that brutal. My eyes filled with tears, and I jumped up from the bench, yelling, "Please don't do this. Nitaya, I can get more money. I can get a job. Please." My voice echoed off the concrete supports of the bridge. She only turned back once, her own eyes wet with tears, and said softly, "I am sorry, Mario. You good man, but I cannot wait anymore. I am sorry." Then she continued walking away into the city's dawn light, her small figure getting smaller and smaller. I chased her along the riverside walkway, running after her like a madman. But the distance between us only grew. She walked faster, then started jogging, and I realized she was really leaving, that this was really the end. By the time I collapsed into the wet pavement next to the river, gasping for breath, she had already vanished into Bangkok's early morning traffic. Just another small figure disappearing into the city's endless crowds. I was left with nothing but that mattered. No job, no visa stability, no home I could really call my own, no relationship, just an empty apartment that was due for rent in a week, and a broken heart that felt physically painful in my chest. I sat by that riverbank for hours as the sun came up and Bangkok woke up around me, holding that wad of cash that once felt like power but now felt like evidence of my stupidity. And I heard all those warnings now, crystal clear in my head, like Jeffrey and others were standing right next to me repeating themselves. I remember what a private investigator friend named Marcus had once told me at a bar, back when I'd first arrived and was bragging about Thai girls. He'd been in Thailand for 15 years doing background checks for worried expats. He said that in more than 80% of the cases he investigated, she was up to no good. I had ignored that completely. I had thought we were different, that Nitaya and I were special, that our love was real. But I was just like all the other fools chasing a mirage in the Thai heat, paying rent on a fantasy. Now I see it clearly. I was not the hero in her story. I was never the hero. I was the donkey carrying gold to her door, the ATM machine with arms and legs and feelings, the temporary solution to her financial problems. Every baht I gave her was like rent on my own place in her life. When that rent ran out, when that money dried up and there was no more coming, so did her loyalty. My arrogance had completely blinded me to this reality. In the days after our breakup, I tried calling her dozens of times. Her phone was disconnected. I went to the condo I'd bought for her. She'd moved out completely, leaving only some old furniture and the motorcycle I bought sitting in the parking space. I asked her roommate, Sidin, where she'd gone. Sidin just shrugged and said, "She go already. I don't know where." I later heard through a mutual friend that she'd moved to Pattaya with a Russian man, probably that same guy she'd been eyeing that night months ago. It hit me like another to the gut. I spent my remaining weeks in Thailand in a fog of depression and self-recrimination. I moved to a cheap hostel in Khao San Road, spending my days drinking beer chang on the roof terrace and my nights staring at the ceiling. I blocked out Joffrey's attempts to check in on me. I couldn't face him. Couldn't face anyone who tried to warn me. My remaining money dwindled day by day. I still had maybe 600,000 baht, but it felt meaningless now. Months later, when my tourist visa was about to expire and I couldn't muster the energy to do another visa run, I finally flew home to Seattle with nothing but what I wore, a half empty backpack, and this story burning in my chest. I moved back in with my younger brother, sleeping on his couch, and spent months trying to piece my life back together. I had to take a job doing accounting at a firm that paid half what I'd made before. I had no savings left, no retirement fund, credit cards maxed out and in collections. If there's a lesson in this disaster, it's simple but painful. Money and love are not the same thing, and confusing them will destroy you. You can have all the money in the world, but the wrong relationship can leave you with nothing, emotionally bankrupt and financially broken. I let pride, jealousy, arrogance, and an endless outflow of cash ruin my life. None of it brought me genuine love. It brought me temporary companionship, some sweet moments I'll never forget, and a lesson that cost me everything. Looking back now, from the safety of my brother's apartment in Seattle, I can see all the red flags I ignored. Her vague explanations about her job, the way she always needed just a little more money, the suspicious moments I explained away, the warnings from experienced expats I laughed off. I was so arrogant, so convinced I was different, so sure I could buy my way into love. I thought my money made me invincible. It made me blind. Was Nitaya a bad person? I don't think so. She was a woman in a difficult situation doing what she needed to survive and support her daughter. Was I a victim? Not really. I was a willing participant in a transaction I refused to see as a transaction. I wanted to believe in a fairy tale, and I paid handsomely for that belief. Thank you for listening to my story, for giving me a place to confess and warn others. If there's any moral to this disaster, it's this: be careful with your heart, and even more careful with your wallet. Don't mistake generosity for love, or dependency for devotion. Don't let your ego convince you that you're different from all the other foreigners who came before you. And for God's sake, listen to the warnings. The expats who try to warn you aren't jealous or bitter. They're trying to save you from becoming the next cautionary tale. I was that cautionary tale. Don't become the next one. Sincerely, Mario from Seattle.